The passage says that stubble burning is one of the reasons why some parts of the northern India faces severe pollution problems, especially during the winter time. Now the question says, which of the following, if true, would weaken the claim that stubble burning is a big deal? Stubble burning has a major role to play in the pollution in the northern India. We have to weaken the argument. So we have to say, no, stubble burning is not really a big deal. Stubble burning does not really contribute much. Option 1 says, straw management machines cause much more damage to the environment. If this statement is true, that means stubble burning is actually not a big deal, because straw management machines which are used in place of stubble burning, they themselves are causing much more problem. So if this statement is true, then it weakens the argument directly. So we have the answer, but we can check out the other options. Cash incentive is only going to work if it's backed by strong surveillance schemes. This does not weaken, it's not even relevant here. Stubble burning is a raging issue. That means stubble burning is a big deal, not only in India but across the world. That means it will strengthen the argument. We have to weaken it, so it cannot be the correct answer. Biodecomposers and pesticides developed by IARI are more likely to be preferred by the farmers. Does it mean stubble burning is not a big deal? Irrelevant. That means this is also not the correct answer, and the correct answer has to be option A. The central argument of the passage is pretty clear. It says that stubble burning is a major reason why pollution is there in the northern India, and it also talks about pollution per se across many other places. Now look at the option 1. There is pretty much nothing Government of India can do to curb environmental pollution. This is a negative statement. The passage does not really say that. Passage in fact says that GOI can do a lot of things. So this is something we can eliminate. The intervention of GOI is necessary to tackle the threat of heat waves and pollution in parts of northern India. This definitely is what the author is focusing on. If you read this part, it says, but Haryana, another farm fire contributor, has to be roped into, not just Delhi. Haryana cities like Gurgaon and Faridabad and UP cities like Noida and Ghaziabad are affected by air quality dips due to stubble burning. Given the multi-state stakes, Delhi's position as the national capital and the economic centrality of Delhi NCR, Government of India intervention can resolve policy tangles. And this is what the author talks about throughout the passage. So GOI's intervention is absolutely important to solve this major issue. This definitely is the central idea. We can agree on that. So this should be the correct answer, but let's see other options. Stubble burning has damaged the ecological balance of Uttarakhand, and the GOI backed incentive scheme is the key to tackle the issue. The passage in fact focuses more on northern India, not on Uttarakhand only, and we have to find the central idea. So this is a very specific option we can eliminate. GOI must do everything in its power to stop the environmental degradation. This is more like a suggestion, a piece of advice, a course of action, but this is not the central idea. Therefore, the correct answer has to be option B. Question 8 says, which of the following is a valid inference in the given context? Inference means based on the information, which one is true. Option 1 says, Government of India cannot just accept every proposal that comes its way from the state government without due diligence. This statement actually is true, but the passage nowhere really supports this. There is no information to infer this. So we can eliminate this. Stubble burning can resolve the issue of environmental degradation. Stubble burning is the reason behind it. It can't resolve. It's contradicting the passage. So this is out. Differences should not come in the way of taking a decision for the benefit of the environment. The passage is about fighting environmental problems, pollution in the northern India. This statement is a very broad statement. It can fit anywhere. This is called a too broad statement. You can eliminate. State governments are not adequately equipped to deal with the threat of ecological imbalance in the northern plains. This is something which is clearly mentioned in the passage. Passage says there are multiple states involved and they cannot fight the problem alone. They have to use the help of Government of India. So you can see it here. But Haryana, another farm fire contributor, has to be roped into not just Delhi. Haryana cities like Gurgaon and Faridabad and UP cities like Noida and Ghaziabad are affected by air quality dips due to stubble burning. Given the multi-state stakes, Delhi's position as the national capital, and the economic centrality of Delhi NCR, Government of India's intervention can resolve policy tangle. So, of course, passage clearly says that Government of India's help is required. State governments cannot do it on their own. That means the correct answer has to be option D. This question may have fogged you a little. Two options can become very problematic in this. The question says the author believes that there is no room for petty politicking because, now if you read the portion of the passage where it is mentioned, it says there is no room for petty politicking on AAP's proposal. Time is limited. Stubble burning peaks in October. Also, given the manifest disinterest of farmers towards various straw management machines and the biodecomposers, the latter option must be prioritized alongside the cash incentive. So, the author is basically saying that we cannot bother about small things. We should focus on this big problem because we need to manage it. Because October is already there, we have to fight this, otherwise pollution will spread everywhere. That's what the author is saying. Now look at the choices. Option 1 says there is no room for maneuver on this scheme. This statement is another example of a perfectly broad, too broad, vague statement. This does not mean anything. There is no room for petty politicking because option 1 says there is no room to maneuver. So it's like repeating the main statement and it is not at all relevant. Time is a precious commodity. Another vague statement. This is more like a factual, more like an opinion based statement, but not really something which can give you the reason why there is no room for petty politicking. So we can eliminate this. That means, of course, D is also out. The issue of environment management is above any political differences. Why there is no room for petty politicking? Because environment management is above every other issue, because environment problems affect every single person. Even if you are the richest in the country, you would still face the problems. And that is why we have to go beyond petty politics and fight it. That means the correct answer has to be option C. Question 10th was quite doable. The downside of Char Dham Yatra becoming much more accessible is, the question says Char Dham Yatra has become very accessible. Thousands and thousands of people are going on this yatra, which is a good thing, great thing, good for tourism, etc. But there is a problem. There is a downside. What is that? The answer is clearly mentioned. Now, if you read this part, it says highway construction has made the Char Dham Yatra more accessible and arguably serves national security imperatives, but the high pilgrim and tourist footfall aggravates solid waste management problems. So in the fragile ecosystem, solid waste management becomes a big problem. So that is the downside of Char Dham Yatra. Now look at the choices. Option 1 says high pilgrim and tourist footfall. This is a good thing actually, not a bad thing. Solid waste management, yes, it's a problem. National security interest, it is in fact has become better. So it is not a downside. Fragile ecosystem is not a downside. Fragile ecosystem is already there. The ecosystem is already fragile. It is already weak. Solid waste management becomes the problem side, and therefore the correct answer has to be option B.